Welcome back, America, to Sound Retirement Radio, where we bring you concepts, ideas, and strategies designed to help you achieve clarity, confidence, and freedom as you prepare for and transition through retirement. And now, here is your host, Jason Parker.
America, welcome back to another round of Sound Retirement Radio. So glad to have you tuning into this episode number 400. The title is The Shocking Truth About Early Retirement with Joe Kuhn. Before we get into today's episode, I want to get the day started right by renewing our mind. And this verse comes to us from Matthew chapter 6, verse 34. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Why did the Scarecrow win an award? Because he was outstanding in his field. I always like to find people who are on this retirement journey and let them share their story. And today I'm speaking with Joe Kuhn. He was 54 years old when he retired, and he's been sharing his experiences about being retired for the past several years on his YouTube channel. He retired at 54, and he had a retirement budget of $8,000 per month. Joe's going to be talking about how he planned for his retirement, his bucket approach to diversifying his retirement portfolio, why he knew it was time to retire, how to retire to something and not from something, and the retirement software that he uses to help him stay organized. Articles, links, and resources mentioned in today's show can be found at soundretirementplanning.com. Just click on episode 400. Here's my interview with Joe Kuhn. All right, it's my good fortune to have Joe Kuhn on the program. Joe's a world-famous YouTuber talking about his retirement story. Joe, welcome to Sound Retirement Radio.
Yeah, hey, glad to be here. I'm not sure about world famous.
You are world famous, my friend. I just saw the map that you shared with all the listeners you have around the world. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, actually, most of my content comes from comments and emails that people send me, and somebody asked about where my audience is, and I said, hey, I have a world map here, and I just started putting the little dots on it. About 25% are global and 75% U.S. But,
yeah.
It's fun. It's really neat to be here in Indiana and leave a video that somebody in London listens to.
Yeah. So I'm going to get into all of this retirement stuff that you're talking about in a minute. But before I do, share with our listeners, people that don't know you, tell us a little bit about how old you were when you retired, what kind of work you were doing, and how you got started in YouTube. Because I just think it's a fascinating story.
Yeah, everybody's got an interesting story there on how they got started. And I'm not at where I am now is not where I started. So I am currently 58. Okay. I retired when I was 54. So I've been into this journey for 4 years now. I worked in heavy manufacturing. I got a degree in mechanical engineering. I worked as an engineer, went into management at a heavy aluminum production facility. A couple thousand people, just had several leadership roles there. And I've actually been a plant manager at 3 of our locations here in the United States. And at 54, I decided I had enough with air quotes, money, but I wanted to retire to something. And I've always had a passion for coaching and teaching. And I've developed an expertise over the years in reliability and maintenance. A very exciting topic. How to maintain at the lowest possible cost and the highest reliability, big, expensive assets. So I retired to do some coaching and some consulting in that space. That turned into a YouTube channel just to try to reach the next generation of people, the people that are in their 20s and 30s that were just getting started. What could I pass on to them, as a, person in their 50s? And then COVID hit, and I said, what am I going to do with my time? I couldn't travel as much, a little more lockdown, so I wrote a book. And it really chronicles, hey, if I'm a new maintenance manager, new plant manager, what would I do the first 30 days? So I just kind of chronicle that. How do I set my game plan up? And then the YouTube, I continue to talk about reliability and maintenance, made several videos. I've got, close to 400 videos out there, and I would say at least half of them were on reliability and maintenance. And I was getting several hundred views, a couple thousand views, things like that. And finally, one of the audience members says, you look kind of young to be retired. How old are you? And I just said, I'm 54, and goes, well, how did you retire? So I said, I'll make a video on that. Well, I make a video on that and I get 10,000 views, and then I get, 50,000 views. And so then I just started splitting the channel. And then I finally just really this year said, okay, the YouTube's going to be 100% retirement, my journey. And it's taken off since then. I've got one video with like 425,000 views.
I saw that.
My kids, they just can't believe it. I've got 4 adult children. They're all engineers, and they just laugh at their dad. But it's been really educational, and there's just this huge need of people. If you look at my videos, I try to be conversational. I'm not giving a lecture. I'm not a professional financial advisor. I'm giving my story. I look at all the data of the market, all the different places you can invest money, things you can do in retirement, fears you have in retirement, mistakes, and I just talk about my journey.
Yeah.
And people seem to connect with that. I have no intention of competing with, the financial advisors out there that, they have degrees and certifications in this, and they're great. I'm just one person's journey through that.
Sharing your story.
Yeah.
How it's working for you. And that's what I think people love so much, because when they're watching somebody that's a financial advisor, they think, oh, this person's got some kind of an agenda. But when they're listening to you, it's just like, hey, I retired at 54. Here's how I did it. Here's what I'm doing now. Here's how it's working out for me. And it's just very authentic. It's really, really good. Now, I got to ask you, you just shared with me a minute ago, because we had the retirement travelers, John and Bev, on the program to talk about their journey. You mentioned that you worked with him for years. And now what about...
Really decades.
Decades. What about Fritz Gilbert? Did you know him? Because it sounds like his background was similar in... No. I thought he was in the aluminum space as well. But you didn't...
Could have been.
Do you follow any of his work with the Retirement Manifesto? Or?
Yes, I think he's got an email that comes out. I listen to him, and watch his... I think it's an email that I get from him.
Okay.
Leads me around places, but there's so much out there, and I really think there's great content. And my little niche is try to address some of the emotional changes that you're going through, how I interpret the data, decisions I've made. I'm on the journey. I didn't research 100 people and say, here's what you should do. Right. I'm just on the journey. And to me, describe it like if I hike to the top of a mountain and then I walk down that mountain and meet you down at the trailhead, I can tell you, hey, here's how long it took to climb the mountain. Watch out for this. Bring some water.
Yeah.
All that. I've just been on the journey, and people seem to value that.
It is so valuable. Absolutely. Valuable. The reason we're having this conversation is because I've been watching your videos on YouTube, and I'm like, man, I got to help this guy's story get out there even more. I mean, you've got a great audience now, but I thought we could share your story with our audience. So I want to ask you about, there's a lot of different areas I want to go out. I want to start with the financial side, because I've watched several of your videos, and one of the things you did is you talk about really having a good spending, a good budget plan before retirement, because that's the number that you use to determine if you've saved enough. And then some of the revelations you've had about your spending after you've retired, because from the videos I've seen, it sounds like you're actually spending less than you had planned for. So tell us, how did you go? Because some people make it sound like trying to figure out your spending is this big mystery. So how did you do that? How did you come up with a spending number?
Yeah, honestly, most of my career, I made good money, but I grew up middle class. I had great parents, great income, but we didn't, I lived in an 800 square foot house with a basement. I shared a car with my, 2 brothers and sister. I just always grew up that way. So I never really got into the lifestyle creep, and that was, pretty major. So when I got close to retirement, started thinking about it, I said, okay, what expenses am I going to have? Well, I'm not saving any more money. Mm-hmm. I have to buy health insurance on my own. So I estimated that. And then I estimated how much I was going to be traveling, and came up with a number. And I believe it was like $8,000 a month. It was quite a bit. We had our base income, and then I was going to have some go-go year, fun money, that I was going to spend. But then in retirement, I said earlier, I'm an engineer. Well, I have a lot more time to dive into costs. So there were, things like life insurance. I planned on life insurance. I've always had life insurance. You have to have life insurance, right? Well, no, not if you're self-insured. Got rid of the life insurance. And then health insurance. I was estimating my health insurance was going to be somewhere around $1,700 a month. Well, I did all this research and all this work, and I got it down. There's other plans that are a little cheaper, but I got one for $900 a month. Well, I saved money there. And just diving into certain costs, I stopped cable. So we were paying $210 a month. We had all kinds of connections. Well, we cut the cable, and we're streaming now, and we're spending like $90 a month and love it more.
Yeah.
One of them that was a little embarrassing for me to figure out, and I've got this on a video. Basically, everything I'm going to tell you today, I've got on a video. I got 150 more, but was driving our second car. I neglected to figure out, I was driving 15,000 miles a year on our second car. Well, I'm driving 2 now. Well, oh my gosh, look at the impact on your tires, your oil changes, and gasoline. I mean, it's like $5,000 a year comes out of my budget just from that.
Wow.
So I also got into my auto insurance, got homeowners insurance, and just tweaked those all down a little bit. And all of a sudden, a couple $1,000s came out of the budget. I was, being an engineer, I should have been better at that. Well, I'm glad it was on the low side. But
so you overestimated your spending going into retirement. But then in one video, I think you said you're only spending like 80% of what you thought you were going to spend.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
So it's also another thing, things that you used to pay for when you're working full time, the dishwasher breaks. We need a new dishwasher. I would pick up the phone, or rather, my wife would pick up the phone and call and get a plumber out here and fix it. I do it myself now. I had a garbage disposal go out, and once when I was working years ago, and it was like $400 to have a plumber come in and change it out. I did it myself for like $90.
Yeah.
So those little things that I used to hire out, I cut my own grass, I do all that stuff, fertilize my own lawn. Another one that I love telling this story. It's not really my budget, but when I was going to one of my retirement gatherings, my neighbor had Orkin pest control out, spraying for bugs at a neighbor's house. And I went to this retirement gathering and I said, how many of you guys pay somebody to take care of your insects and whatever, spray? 9 out of 10 hands raised. I said, I'm 58 now. This was just a couple years ago. I said, I've never in my life, my dad in his life, have never paid. Why don't you just go to Home Depot, buy some insects and do it yourself? And then I said, well, how much you paying? Well, the cheapest guy was paying $34 a month.
Wow.
I'm like, well, that's freaking crazy. What do you guys? I'll come over to your house. And do it. So I think I'm kind of a do-it-yourselfer, and that helped a lot. Just looking at things I was paying for, and just having the time. When I was working 10, 11 hours a day, you didn't feel like getting into health insurance and life insurance and auto insurance. You just didn't want to do that stuff. Cutting the cable, that sounds like a pain.
Yeah.
So that's really what helped out a lot. Sorry for the long answer, but it was a journey, and I got a whole video on it.
Yeah. So once you figured out the spending, then what was the process for understanding if you had saved enough to support the spending that you were going to be doing? Did your wife retire at the same time, or is she still working?
Yeah, my wife retired like 30 years before I did. She was a school teacher, and we started having kids, and she stayed home with the kids.
Awesome.
And that's a topic I'd be interested in coming back to you on. Is, well, I'll do it just a little bit right now. We intentionally decided to focus and double down on one career, okay, instead of two. And so often in society today, you think, oh, two incomes is better than one. Well, you end up sacrificing a little bit. I was able to volunteer for assignments, to change jobs without fear, take on more responsibility throughout my career. I made a lot more money career because my wife stayed home, and significantly more than both of us combined.
Yeah.
So I just think so many people are going through life with their hair on fire and disaster to disaster and all this stress. And I think they're actually, you could be making less money by doing that if you would just focus on one career, whether that's the male or the female, doesn't matter. Just focus on one career.
That's an interesting thought. Yeah. But then also the other side, the other major benefit, in my opinion, is that your kids had two parents the entire time raising them, but they had their mom there to be there when they left for school and be there when they got home from school.
Yeah. Well, and it wasn't just their mom. It was whenever I came home from work, I didn't have to cut the grass. We didn't go grocery shopping. The house was clean. It was all dad time with the kids. Wow. So when I came home, I didn't have half the chores to do.
Yeah.
My wife.
Wow,
that was huge.
You guys are a good team. Yeah. That's
cool.
It
was a team. We played a zone. I brought in the money. She managed the home front. I was able to coach sports teams. We were both heavily involved because we played that zone.
That's awesome.
You said once I figured out my budget, how did I decide I have enough? Okay. Yeah. And I'm going to preface this. Last time I'm going to say this. I got a video on this. Okay. So everything I'm going to say. If I have a new one, I'm going to write it down.
And we'll have a link in the show notes to your YouTube channel so people can find this easily.
Well, and what I did and what I recommend, first thing you do is you go with the 4% rule just to kind of get a ballpark. So, hey, from my assets, if I take it times 4%, is that enough to live on? Okay. So if you pass that test and if it's just close, that's okay. Then I recommend going and seeing 2 financial advisors. I went and saw 7.
Wow.
Okay. And I went and talked to them, say, okay, sell me on what you got. Here's what I've got. Give me your best sales pitch. Show me what you got, what you can do for me. And they also will, they got programs. They'll enter your information in and say, oh, you're fine. Here's how much you're going to spend. Here's how much you can spend. Here's your probability of success. They'll do all that for you. Okay. So do that with at least 2 people. But more is better, and see what they can do. You may love them and you may decide to sign up with them, go assets under management, go on down the road. Okay. I did that. And then, what I decided to do is just go on my own.
So okay? after you met with 7 financial planners, all 7 of them came back and said, you're golden. So you had a lot of confirmation saying not only were your numbers right, but somebody else looked over it for you. Yeah.
The biggest problem that I see with retirement, people jumping, it's a jump. I described it yesterday to a guy on the phone. You're in an airplane, you got your parachute on. You've had your parachute checked 20 times, but you still got to jump out of an airplane.
Yeah.
It's still not something you're trained for. You've educated yourself, you've developed a skill, you've saved money. All you know is how to earn money. And now you need to learn how to spend money and without earning money. And you're like, well, that sounds scary. So you need confidence. People contact me, send me emails, set up an hour, coaching session with me for one reason: confidence.
Yeah, they want to have that second opinion. They want somebody to let them know they're going to be okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, one other thing that I encourage, so, do the 4% rule, talk to at least 2 financial advisors. I also recommend getting a comprehensive software package. Okay. I have a recommendation that I give out there.
Yeah, go ahead and share it. We're open. We want to know what people are doing.
Yeah, it's called New Retirement. And if you go to my videos, There's a link in there. You get a free 2 weeks so you can put in all your information. And there's just too many balls to juggle. I'm an engineer, and I like saying I'm an engineer, because if I can't juggle all these financial balls, that gives you the right not to do it either.
Yeah.
It's timing of Social Security, rates of return, what's your fair market plan, what can happen with inflation, early death of one of you. And new retirement has some artificial intelligence in it. When you put in all your assets, rates of return, all that kind of stuff, it will say, hey, have you thought about taking Social Security at 67 versus 62? You'll have this much left in your nest egg if you do that, or you can increase your probability of success. It recommends things to you. It's fabulous. I love it. And so armed with the confidence of the 4% rule, the confidence of 2 financial advisors, and armed with a comprehensive software package, that is a freaking bargain. Okay. It's $120 a year for this new retirement. You can make that jump, but it's still going to be a leap of faith. And that confidence is what I'm participating in, the confidence of people to jump. One slight sidebar on that. On YouTube, you can conduct a survey. And so I conducted a survey. This has been 6 months ago or so. I said, hey, just to my audience, if you watch my videos, have I convinced you to retire, gave you more confidence in retirement, or just provided interesting information, and I think, or it's been of no value? I haven't looked at it in a while, but it was like 400 people said, I personally have convinced them to retire.
Wow.
I'm like, uh-oh.
Well, there's a big responsibility there, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope they were ready.
Oh man, I know. It's actually a fear that I have. We built software to help people make this transition, but there's that old saying, garbage in, garbage out, right? So if somebody's putting in bad assumptions, or they're really not thinking through, they could still end up with the wrong outcome as a result of not really understanding what they're putting in there. So
exactly right. That's why I tell people in my videos, and I get people joke with me all the time, don't just create your plan in the basement by yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, in the basement by yourself, you're going to have heirs. And I actually, when I did retirement coaching, I got to 100 people that I coached. I gave a summary of the last 10 people. Mm-hmm. No names, anything like that. And I think the average number of improvements to their plan or concerns, something we talked about, I believe it was 7.5. And I had people with like 16 points of improvement.
Wow.
Well, if you're doing this at home in your basement, I promise you there's heirs. I love analogies. I said, if you had to write a 500-word essay, you wrote a 500-word essay and you proofread it 5 times, and then you hand that to your spouse, they're going to find 10 heirs.
Yeah.
It's you're too close to it. So don't make your plan in your basement. You got to. If you're not using a financial advisor, get a financial coach. If you're not using a financial coach, get a comprehensive software package, consume data on podcast, YouTube. I'm telling you, going it alone is a big mistake.
Yeah. Well, especially, if confidence is what you want, you just want to get that second opinion. You want somebody else to look over your shoulder and help you identify. That's awesome. I want to ask you more questions about what you're doing there, but you mentioned your coaching a couple of times. And so you are a retirement coach. That's something you're doing in your retirement. Tell our listeners what that looks like.
Right. Well, I started out just offering it as a free service. If you want to talk to me, send me an email. 3 months later, nobody sent me an email. Nobody wanted anything. So then I found how to add a link in my videos to secure an hour. And I started charging. And that started off as 2 or 3 a week phone calls. And then it's gone to like 1 a day, 5 and 6 days a week. And I've actually, I limit myself to 1 a day. I don't want to do more 1 a day. I am retired.
Yeah.
But it's been overwhelming what's happened. I actually just recently turned off receiving new ones because I got to catch up. I got so many backlog, and I only want to do one a day. I'm retired.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I do there is for a fee, and it's a low fee. It's $180. And
today we should preface that with today, because if somebody's listening in the future, you might get more expensive over time.
Yeah, I could charge more money. But I could probably, I'm sure I could charge $300 and I'd have the same number of people.
Yeah.
But I charge 180 to just keep it very reasonable for people that need it, that are going down the path by themselves and just need a second opinion. But I want to make it worth my time. Just an hour a day in the middle of the day or middle of the evening, it kind of ruins the flow of the day. So compensate me a little bit for that, not excessively, and we'll go down the road. So what I do is I ask people to give me their background information. What are you afraid of? Give me your top 4 fears. Give me your situation. They talk about their parents are living with them, or I got this inheritance coming up, or I got this pension. They lay out all their finances, where it's invested. It's kind of a whole picture. I look at that minimum of 30 minutes ahead of time. I'm reviewing that, and I come up with my questions for them before I meet them. And I like that because I'm not emotionally tied to them or anything. It's just facts, And then I schedule a call, and that call it never goes less than an hour, and sometimes it's an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes. And I just charge $180 for that whole process. So I probably have close to 2 hours in a person in this. So it's $90 an hour. And I don't think anybody could say that's expensive for this kind of advice. So you can compare it, but I enjoy doing it. I tell my wife, it's kind of like, how some people like doing crossword puzzles, or they like doing Sudoku or something like that. I like looking at people's financial situation and saying, hey, I'm not giving financial advice, not even close to that. But I kind of like, if I had your cards, your situation, I would be concerned about this. I'd look more into this. You may want to think, I don't like this. I had somebody the other day that had a pension, and they had 0% survivor spouse coverage with that if they died. And I said, I would never do that.
Yeah.
I would, under no circumstances would I do that. And this individual, we discussed it for a little bit. I don't know where they're going to go, but they knew they bounced it off somebody that said, I would never do that. So it's really helpful. I give 100% money back guarantee, and I've never given back a dime. People are overwhelmingly happy. And I also give, last thing on that, I give, if you sign up as a retirement coach, one session, I give you a lifetime of emails to send me. So if you got a question or year update, that's all nothing.
Joe, you got to be careful, man. You're gonna find yourself in a full-time gig with no income coming in, but hundreds of emails to answer. But
it's not about income. I'm not really trying to make money. It's nice to have a little money, but in retirement, these are the kind of things I talk about.
Yeah.
Retirement, you can't just retire to the beach. If you've been a driver, overachiever, goal-oriented your whole life, you retire at 54, you're not going to just go to the beach and do nothing, watch TV all day long. Mm-hmm. That wouldn't be happiness. To me, I want to do something fun and exciting. We travel. I love travel. I want to do something with the gift I've been given. I've been given gifts, talents, and skills. How do I advance society a little bit with that?
I want to come back to that conversation in just a second, but I want to talk to you about investing for a minute, because I was watching one of your videos and you like to use buckets in terms of allocating resources. So tell us your thoughts about buckets, how you do it, how that's been working out for you now that you've been retired for a couple of years.
Yeah. One of the questions that you have to be able to answer in retirement is, what's your bear market plan? And your bear market plan, that's when the market goes down at least 20%. It can go down 30, 40, 50%. Your plan can't be, I hope that doesn't happen.
Well, in 2000, you retired, was it 2019?
Yes.
Yeah, so you experienced the financial turmoil of COVID when the market was down 10% a day in some instances.
Yeah.
And then
Oh, yeah.
2022 when the typical 60-40 stock bond was down 15%. So you've had your fair share of fear factors, I would say. So all right, so sorry to interrupt you. 2019 your bear market plan, and you're using buckets.
Yeah, so I have 3 buckets of money. Okay, I have bucket one, and that's not the magic formula. Okay, that's Joe's formula. It's my risk tolerance, my assets, what I want to do. I have 4 years of expenses. This is, after, if you got Social Security or you got any fixed income, you got any rental income coming in, what cash do you need to live on? So I got 4 years of that, really invested in I bonds, money market, CDs. Stock market goes down 30%. It does not affect the 4 years at all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So why is that important? Okay. So when the market, you're living life, and then 2022 happens and your investments go down, the stock market goes down 35%. Okay. And people call me and say, Joe, what are you doing? What are you doing? I say, nothing. What buckets do for you is they convert dollars to years. Okay. And that's the important thing. You're converting dollars to years. If I told you, Jason, that your money, you've got 35% less money in your bank account, or you got 35% less assets, are you okay? You'll go, well, I don't know. But if you have buckets of money and you got 4 years in bucket one, you have 4 years to ride out a bear market. So if after 2022, my 4 years was down to 3. And so people, what am I doing different? Absolutely nothing. I've got 3 years to ride out this bear market till it comes around. Now, why 4 years? And we're still in bucket one. If you look at forget this bear market because it hasn't run its cycle yet. But if you look at the last 10 bear markets, the last 7 went from high peak to trough to peak again in under 4 years. So that's why I got 4 years. I can handle 70% of the bear markets. The other ones were like 6, 7, and 8 year. So you kind of need to be able to handle something a little more extreme, like, the great financial crisis in 2008, 9, and the .com that hit in, early 2000s. Those two are kind of close together, and you didn't get much of a return in the 2000 to 2010 period. So I actually have bucket 2 that is in balanced funds. That means like 60-40 kind of stuff, stocks to bonds. And those historically over 3, 4, 5 year periods of time don't really lose money. So I've got, another 4 years of expenses in that. And then my bucket 3, 100% stocks, money I'm not touching for 9 years till my 9th year. Okay. So what buckets do, now there's an argument between, do you need buckets or why not just do asset allocation, right? And there's no right answer. Buckets is all mental. It allows me when the market is down and I bet 20 people called me, friends, all these people like, oh my gosh, what are you doing now when the market is down? What are you doing? Are you going all to cash? I can't what if this happens 2 years in a row? I say, I'm doing nothing because I know I have the knowledge that most bear markets go over their cycle in 4 years. I've got another 3 years. I may get a little concerned 2-3 years from now.
Yeah.
That's what I.
Yeah. And so how do you treat the refilling of the buckets? Do you think of them just spending them sequentially? Like you're going to go through 4 years and then at the end of 4 years, you're going to get into bucket 2 and then start spending down bucket 2. Is that kind of the game plan? Or at some point, do you plan on refilling your bucket 1?
No, I have a cadence or a process. What I do is every quarter, I look at each bucket. Well, let me back up. First thing I do every quarter is I look at our spending. I don't look at our expenses every week. I would be divorced if I did that. There's natural fluctuations in your spending with birthdays and Christmas, anniversary, travel. So I smooth that out over a quarter. Okay, so I look at my expenses and say, are we on track? And okay, we're on track.
And are you using software for doing that?
No, Excel.
Okay.
I use Excel. I'd be open to looking at a package. I know you said you guys do some bucket work in your software package. I'd love to look at that. You send me a link to that to look at that. But I just do it in Excel. So I look at my expenses, and then each bucket has a role in life. Okay. So if I started out, I got 4 years in bucket one, 4 years in bucket two, and then infinity in bucket three. My 4 years in bucket one after a quarter is at 3 3/4 years, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So, but the purpose of bucket one is to ride out a bear market, a 4-year bear market. So if after a quarter, say stocks are near new highs, they're still flirting around, looking good, I will top off bucket one. I'll put a quarter's worth in there to top it off to 4 years. You need to keep that gas tank full of bucket one to handle a 4-year bear. Okay. So you don't want to run through, you don't want that whole bucket one to go from 4 years to zero and the bear market hits you with, your pants are down. Okay. Hopefully everybody loves these analogies. So you really want to keep bucket one and two filled up, topped off to do their job. Okay. So what I coach a lot of people on this, they are in your investment life and working life, your goal is to maximize returns. Maximize returns. Oh boy, Joe, if you got 4 years in bucket one, I bet I got 100 comments in 2021 of how stupid I was to have 4 years of expenses out of the stock market because it's riding high.
The raging bull. Yeah. It's like risk on, invest it all, buy some crypto.
Yeah, there you go. And then at the end of 22, none of those people said, maybe Joe knew what he was doing. It's your job is to get the maximum returns you can with some defense. You play defense. You're not trying to maximize returns. You're trying to get the best returns you can while protecting. So yeah, stop buying the crypto. I'm a boring investor. I don't any individual stocks. I don't look at my returns. I probably look at I got a simple app on my phone. Probably once a month, I'm looking at where my money is, but I probably spend 2 hours on it once a quarter and kind of look at my buckets. Can bucket one do its job? And like right now, that's a little, I don't want to confuse this. Right now, I kind of beefed up bucket one, but I was down to under 3 years. I was at just recently under 3 years. And I took some money out of bucket two that was doing well. Actually, I hadn't paid capital gains on it because I sold some of it. It's in a brokerage account. And I bought I bought a 5.1% CD. I couldn't believe that 5.1% CD. So I transferred some money from bucket two to bucket one. And I have 4 years still in bucket two. And I now have 5 years in bucket one. So I'm actually set up better. My original bucket one, think about, when I retired in 2019, my bucket one, and I was hoping to get a 0.5% return. With I bonds and CDs, I'm getting like 4%.
Yeah. That's awesome. I wanted to ask you about a couple of things I heard you say in your YouTube videos. One, you asked the question, what would I do if I wasn't afraid?
Yeah, I love that one.
That you mentioned that. Yeah. Tell us how you've thought about that question, how that's inspired you, what you do with your time, because time is, I get to walk life with a lot of people to make this transition into retirement. And for some guys and women, figuring out what they're going to do with their time after they're retired is unsettling for them. They don't necessarily have a lot of hobbies. And so let's talk about that side of retirement. Once you get the financial stuff squared away, you feel good about it. You've got your second opinions. You're using your software. You've got your asset allocation, your diversification strategy. Now you've got to jump out of the plane and you've checked the parachute 20 times. What does that look like for you? How have you filled that? And how do you use that question? What would you do if you weren't afraid?
Yeah. And those, what would you do if you weren't afraid? For me, I came across that 25 years ago or so. And, in my life, I've used that a lot. I tend to be a logical person, database person. Statistics mean a lot to me. One of the career moves I made was for 4 years, I was an international internal consultant for the company I worked for. So I traveled to Saudi Arabia, Brazil, Australia, Canada, French, Quebec area where they speak French, Norway, Spain, all these countries where we had large plants. And I'm telling you, when I was thinking about that, I kind of said, no, I don't want to do that because I was afraid. I was sitting there going, man, I only speak English. I'm going to go into these other countries. I'm going to be telling them what to do, and they're going to tell me to get the heck out of there. I don't want to do that. And I said, that's just fear talk. So I'm not in. So I just said, hey, this is a great job. And it's a nice test for what I want to do in retirement. Remember, I said at 54, I was planning on doing some consulting. So here's an opportunity to work as an internal consultant. Guaranteed money coming in. Why wouldn't I do this to kind of help me craft my approach to consulting? And so that was probably the first decision I made that was really big. That I was afraid going to the Middle East. Who wants to go into the Middle East in the middle of the desert and doing consulting? So retirement. You're sitting there like I'm 54 years old at the time, and I'm like, what crazy person leaves a job? I was making peak of my earning years.
Right.
Good, very good money.
Were the kids all out of college and stuff by then?
My fourth one, my daughter, still had 2 years to go, but she wasn't living at home. All four went to Purdue University in Indiana here, all engineers, like I think I said. Yeah. But it was just my wife and I. We were empty nesters, and we said, hey, let's do this job. So I got to see the world. I mean, I love to travel 50% of the time. Love that. So retiring, it's like, what are you doing? And it is fearful. And the easy thing to do, the comfortable thing to do, is work 1 more year, work 2 more years. That game, okay? But then you got, oh my gosh, the only reason I'm not retiring, I've got my math works. We talked about how you come up with your math and your equations, your confidence. All that works. Why am I working? Well, because I'm afraid. I need more money. And so many people reach their number, and then they reach double their number, and then triple their number. And all of a sudden you're 67. Well, I didn't want to look back. My biggest fear became, and I think most people's fear should be, at 75, am I going to regret the decision I made? At 75, am I going to look back and say, gosh, all my math worked at 55 and I was just scared and I went to 60. And so that was a big part of my decision, is to I wanted, if I'm going to do consulting, I want to do it while I'm 55, 54 years old, not when I'm 65. And I have energy and ideas and want to make an impact. I want to do this now. Yeah. So big part of retirement, and I've got this phrase, a lot of people love this. And once you have your math and all that worked out, you still got to jump out of that airplane. Yeah. And what helps you jump out of that airplane with the parachute on into retirement is, what are you retiring to? What are you going to do? Yeah. What are you going to, like we talked about John and Bev, the retirement travelers, are you going to sell everything you own, put everything you got in a backpack and travel for 10 years? Epic. Are you going to sell everything and buy an RV and drive in North America? Epic. Are you going to start your own business? Are you going to start to grow flowers and sell them? Are you going to start a YouTube channel? What are you going to do with your time? Yeah. I encourage people with their time. And there's a lot of videos that say this, is you got to do something fun. I like to travel. I think you got to do something where you're learning. I started a book club with another guy where we study different historical figures, different philosophies, just different periods of time. But you also need to give back. You need to figure out what's your gift in life and how can you give it away. I got 2 nonprofits I'm on, and I paint houses. I'm on the painting crew for Habitat for Humanity, and a couple days a month I'm painting houses for people that need a hand up in life. I love their program. And then this YouTube channel. This started, first 2 years of YouTube videos. I made 200 videos and didn't make a dime for YouTube. Nothing. So you better love what you're doing. You don't do YouTube for the money. You don't. It takes a long time to make money. And then if you look at your dollars per hour, you go, boy, that's pretty low. You do it as a gift, and that's how I started it, as a gift towards the next generation of maintenance managers and plant managers. And now I'm finding just this huge audience of people that need confidence in retirement.
Yeah.
So that's what
your next book is going to be about your retirement journey. The first one was about your career, and this next one will be about your retirement.
Yeah, and I get asked, actually a person that watches me from Germany, just keeps nudging me. They said, Joe, just take all your videos and write a book from all your videos. You don't need to come up with any content, just videos. And one of the things I've been thinking about doing is just hiring somebody or partnering with somebody like a writer and say, you write this book, you do all the work with the book and give me 20%.
Yeah, there you go.
Go down that road, something like that. But writing a book, that wasn't easy. I worked on that. That was, it took me 4 months to write that book.
That's pretty fast, actually. My first book took me 1.5 years. It was I had to grind that thing out, man.
Yeah, but I wasn't working. I didn't have a job.
Well, that's a good point. Yeah. I was doing mine. I was writing my first book at 4:30 in the morning. From like 4:30 to 7 is when I had a little bit of wiggle room. I wanted to ask you, in one of the videos you talked about, you had lost like 30 pounds at one point. So your health became more of a priority in retirement. Is that a fair statement?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. What changes for you in pre-retirement, you're obsessed with money. So if when your math works, say it works at 54 years old, when you're 50, 51, 52, all you think about is money. You think all retirement's going to be is around managing your money. 6 months after you retire, you say, well, hey, the money thing's all working out. That's all fine. I've got it positioned in these buckets and investments. And then you start to think, okay, I'm 54. How long am I going to live? And how long is that going to be a quality life? And look around. Look at the newspaper and the obituaries. I will be lucky if I'm active and doing things and traveling and when I'm 75. So you're sitting there at 54, you say, man, I got 21 years left. That's not very long, and that's if I'm lucky. So, I had one of these jobs where I honestly didn't think I had stress. I was managing a plant of 2,000 people, engineers, everybody, production workers, and I loved it. I loved the game. But it wasn't until I stopped working that I said, oh my gosh, this is what no stress feels like.
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah. And so I had, everybody's got their crosses they bear. I stress ate. So like, big problems at work. Okay. Give me a cheeseburger. Big problems at work. I kind of would eat through that. And I lost 45 pounds.
Did you really? Wow.
And
what did you do different? Did you start working out a lot, or did you just really focus on your diet, or do you think it's just stress?
Exercised. I'm one of those crazy people that likes to exercise.
So you were exercising before you lost the weight.
Yeah.
But after retirement, the weight came off. So it was all diet then, because you kept...
all diet.
Wow.
Wow. I believe, and I do a lot of study from others on nutrition. I eat a lot more vegetables now than I used to. I almost eat no fried food, and I really passionately don't eat sugar.
Wow.
I don't eat carbs. I eat vegetables all day long, and I eat meat, and then critical for me is not eating after 5 o'clock.
Wow. Boy, that's awesome, man. I love that you're getting healthier and you're doing stuff you love. One of the things I struggle with the FIRE movement, financially independent, retired early, is I believe that we have been designed to contribute. And so some of these guys that, they've saved $3 million and they're 35 years old and they're retiring, I just think, well, sitting, like you were saying, sitting on a beach all day, playing golf every day is not fulfilling. At least it wouldn't be to me. This idea that you have figured out things that are bringing you joy, ways to contribute, I think that is a key. When you're doing coaching with people, what is the process you take them through to help them identify the contribution that they're going to continue to make, or how they can continue to be engaged in some capacity, so they're not just sitting on the sidelines of life? Yeah.
Well, first thing, we start with what's their career, and is there something you could do in your career? A guy I was just talking to, he's a medical doctor, and like, oh my gosh, do you know what you can do on mission trips? Travel to Guatemala or Appalachia, or just at your church or nonprofit you're at, to participate in helping people less fortunate. But sometimes they love that. And sometimes they say, that's the last thing. I need a complete break. And then I just say, well, what would you do for free? And I get answers all over the place. One guy said, I really want to be an umpire, a referee, and I love being around kids. And I was thinking about, these little 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, 15-year-olds playing baseball. I want to be an umpire. And I said, man, that is so cool.
Yeah.
You make a little bit of money, but you can do, it's a little bit physical and you're in control, but it's part of the game.
Yeah.
What's that going to be? I was talking to a guy that thought about, he wants to build a greenhouse and sell plants, like starter tomato plants and flowers and things like that. Make a little bit of money, maybe offset his expenses, but it's just something they enjoy doing and meeting people. I know other people that, my brother-in-law is one. I talked to a guy this week that he wants to expand his garden and start giving his garden to the food pantry in the area. So, just you ask people's questions, try to figure out what do you do for fun? What are you doing on the weekends? And people will start talking about that. There are several people, though. It's pretty common for people to just tell me they have no hobbies.
Right.
And they're not really thinking about travel. I've just had enough of my job. And I dump the cold water over their head. And I say, all you're worried about is money now. 6 months after you retire, 4 to 6 months, it's going to be on your health and longevity. How long, and what are you going to do with all your time? Most people, I'll say everyone, this isn't all. Everyone grossly underestimates how much time they have in a day. If you're working a 9-hour-a-day job, okay, that counts lunch, you're gone 9 hours. Okay, you got a 30-minute commute to work, 30-minute commute after work. You come home and you're tired. You eat, you just maybe you cut grass, maybe you pay some bills, maybe you do something around the house, but you're tired. Okay, now then you got the weekend, and then the weekend you try to get all these things done and meet with some friends and go out to eat. That's your life, and rinse and repeat. In retirement, you wake up in the morning and you're refreshed. What are you going to do all day long? In the evening, you're not tired in the evening. I watch, here's an interesting, I calculated this the other day. I watch 10% of the TV that I watch pre-retirement.
Wow.
Because you're not tired. You're not tired anymore. So think about all the time that you're at work, commuting to work, thinking about work, and tired from work. It's probably 12 hours a day. That's maybe 16.
Yeah.
And that gets freed up. What are you going to do with it? There are many people. It's very common discussion. I'm not retiring because I'm afraid I'll be bored. Well, that's boring because their only hobby is work and making money. And retirement may not be the right thing for you. Retirement is not, people mistake a retirement for a destination. I'm at the top of the mountain. I'm retired. I cannot do any physical activity or use any brain cells.
Yeah.
I'm retired. Retirement is a start of a new journey.
I like that. Yeah.
It's a start of something new.
Yeah.
And to me, I describe what I'm doing to people. I say I have 2 retirement groups that I'm a part of. One investment, one's just we get together and talk. I have a book club that I get together on. I write for 2 magazines. I write for 2 reliability magazines, and I make a YouTube channel. I do coaching. They go, "Oh my gosh, you're working." Yeah, I work about 5 hours a week.
Yeah.
And it's on my schedule.
Right.
And that 5 hours is out of 16 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
It's not.
I love it, man. It's so good. As you were talking, I think you were describing my dad there. My dad's almost 70 and he's retired, and he works out 3 hours a day. He went from 230 pounds down to 170 pounds when he gave up. He went totally vegan, which was pretty bold. I couldn't give up meat myself, but he umpires Little League Baseball. My dad's an incredible athlete, but he's working at the golf course 2 days a week because he gets to talk to people and it gets him free golf. So he, spends some time golfing. But all these things, he gets paid a little bit of money for umpiring. He gets paid a little bit for working at the golf pro shop. But yeah, it's so cool. He's like you. He's getting healthier as he's getting older, and it's exciting to see that. My coach, I pay a guy that's a coach. I meet with him once a month. He said, every day you're either getting a little bit better or a little bit worse. You're never staying the same. And I like that quote.
Yeah. I went to my doctor. I go every year for a physical, and it was probably 2 years ago. He told me I'm the healthiest patient he has.
Wow, that's awesome.
And there's probably some 25-year-olds that don't go to the doctor, but no medicine.
That's good.
Yeah, it's quickly when you retire, you're going to shift from, and a lot of people can't imagine this because you're so focused on money and does my money work? How am I going to finance my lifestyle? And 6 months into retirement, it's like 4th or 5th on your list.
Yeah. Well, Joe, you're only about 10 years ahead of me, but I think to myself, retiring at 54, I guess part of it is I really do love the work that we do. And so I just don't see myself ever retiring, even though that's the area of specialty, for me personally, is all the books and the podcasts and the software that we build, everything is retirement focused. But, Warren Buffett says, if you love the work that you do, you never work a day in your life. And so like you, I don't know, maybe if you had been a financial advisor, a financial planner early on, maybe you would still be doing what you're doing because it's something you enjoy. You like doing your YouTube channel. You like helping people. You like coaching people. And so it's hard for me to imagine stopping work. And, I like playing pickleball and riding electric bikes, but there's only so much of that I can do, and so to be able to contribute, to be able to continue to make a contribution is really important to me. And like you, I'm involved in a couple of nonprofits, but I don't know. I just, my mentor, the guy that brought me into this business and taught me a lot, he passed away a couple of years ago. He worked until he was about 75. He wasn't working every day. He wasn't coming into the office every day, but he was, mentoring me and coaching me. And then he got cancer. And so the last 2 years, he fully stopped working, but it kept him active. It kept him engaged. It kept his brain fresh, to have something to do. And so that's what I really see. And I hear from your story, all of this stuff that you're doing, it's keeping you mentally engaged and active and contributing. And without those things, you can have all the money in the world, but who cares if you don't have your health and you don't have any purpose? It's
exactly right. The one thing I would add to your story, or clarify in there is I absolutely loved my career. I look at something as an engineer, you've got a degree in problem solving. And I go to plants right now. I mentor people right now. And I say, can I come to your plant? I love seeing how things are made.
Yeah.
And every time I go into a plant, I go, why are you doing it this way? Why aren't you doing it this way? Wouldn't it be better if you did this? I can't help but try to improve things in manufacturing. I loved my career. Okay. Change anything about it. People ask me, they said, Joe, do you wish you retired at 54? Do you wish you would have retired earlier? And I say no. because the last job was the one I liked the most.
Do you wish you would have worked longer?
No, I don't wish. I believe I was at a point in my career where some things started to repeat, and I like new. I never had a job more than 4 years with the company I worked for. One job, I changed jobs every 2 to 4 years. Changed job, and I would always be put in a problem area. This is the worst area of the plant. There you go, Joe. This is the worst area of the plant. There you go, Joe. This plant's not making money. Turn it around, Joe. I love that. I love the excitement, turning people from, frustrated to empowered. I greatly enjoyed the mentoring, coaching that I was able to do with people and help them be their best self. Wouldn't change a thing. I got to a point where I wanted to start a new journey. I wasn't dissatisfied with my job. It's like I was a really good baseball player, and Michael Jordan did this.
Yeah.
I'm a really good basketball player. And then after, gosh, I can do this again, but I know what I'm doing. The same problems keep coming around. I want to play baseball. And that's what Jordan did. That's the same thing. I want to do something different. I don't have to have money telling me what to do with my life. I can pick another journey. So don't interpret what I did at all that, boy, I picked the wrong career. Is that I reached a point in my life where I wanted to do something different. So I talk to people, that are like 45, and they say, I love my job, just like you did. I love my job. Well, let's give it another 10. Give it another 10, and I don't know what you'll say. You may say, gosh, I love my job, but I only get 4 weeks a year vacation. I really want to go to Europe for 3 months. I really want to go over. So I got to change something. Now that I don't have money telling me what to do, what choices would you make? And yeah, a lot of people in the financial industry, they keep working on because they love it. I'm not here to judge. I wanted to start a new journey.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. It's just I loved my journey. I retired, I thought, for the perfect age for me.
That's awesome.
I could have retired at 52. My math worked at 52. And what happened is a couple friends of mine, they asked me 4 times to take this plant manager role to help turn this plant around. They asked me 4 times. I told them no 3. That's what happened. Yeah, I just got to the point where it was like, hey, let's let somebody else take over. I've solved this problem 5 times already. I can do it a 6th time, or why not let somebody else come in and do it? I had some other things I wanted to do. I want to be gone 15, 16, 17 weeks a year traveling.
Yeah.
Well, my job didn't let me do that. It's not that I hated my job, but I had this new journey that I wanted to start.
That's
and
cool.
Also, I wanted to start spending a lot more time focusing on reliability and maintenance, which was a huge gap.
Before we're coming to the end of our time here, but what's been your favorite trip, favorite travel destination you've taken so far?
Easy answer, Norway.
Really?
Norway is a beautiful. I've been to Iceland. I've been to Norway. I've been to Saudi Arabia. Norway was beautiful. The fjords there, the people really friendly, the scenery, the mountains. Just absolutely loved Norway. Number one. Now here's a surprise. I actually, culturally, which was the most fascinating trip I've been on, Saudi Arabia. The culture there is so different. Now they have a lot of sand and not much to look at, but the culture there is completely different. And I was just fascinated by understanding their lifestyle of the workers. Got to know a few of them pretty well. But Norway is the plant that I've spent 6 weeks in Australia, loved it, but Norway.
Cool. Is there anything you want to make sure that you share with our listeners before we finish our interview today? Thank you for being a guest on the podcast. Thank you for your YouTube channel to teach what you're doing and what your experience has been. But is there anything you want to make sure that you leave our listeners with as we finish up?
I think we covered it. I've got a lot of little things in videos, but it's you can do this. And I guess one thing, everybody's scared to retire. Every single person. That's not your gut telling you something's inherently wrong in your plan. Every single person is scared. They may not admit it. I've had a person with $11 million contact me and said they weren't sure if they had enough money to retire, and so it's all over the place, but everybody is scared. It's a leap. So do a little research, talk to a financial advisor, use the 4% rule, talk to a coach, talk to somebody else. Don't do this plan in your basement. Your paranoia will go crazy. Everybody is scared. You can do it. You'll be delighted on the other side of that mountain.
Awesome, Joe. Thanks so much for being a guest on Sound Retirement Radio.
It was great. I enjoyed it. Jason, thanks for looking me up and setting us up.
Yeah, thank you.
Information and opinions expressed here are believed to be accurate and complete, for general information only, and should not be construed as specific tax, legal, or financial advice for any individual, and does not constitute a solicitation for any securities or insurance products. Please consult with your financial professional before taking action on anything discussed in this program. Parker Financial, its representatives, or its affiliates have no liability for investment decisions or other actions taken or made by you based on the information provided in this program. All insurance-related discussions are subject to the claims-paying ability of the company. Investing involves risk. Jason Parker is the president of Parker Financial, an independent fee-based wealth management firm located at 9057 Washington Avenue Northwest, Silverdale, Washington. For additional information, call 1-800-514-5046 or visit us online at soundretirementplanning.com.